Hello there and welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Josh and I'm here to talk Survivor. I'm assuming if you're watching this video you like Survivor, which is good, which means we already have something in common, which is great. And I'm going to be talking first of all about the current season of Survivor that we are on, Survivor 46, my thoughts on the players so far that we've seen get voted out, and also the chances I believe that the rest of the players have to win the season ultimately. As this is a new YouTube channel, if you do enjoy the content, do be sure to like and subscribe, as it all really helps out. It helps channels grow, and leave any comments of any feedback of what you thought about the video, as it really does help. I did take some inspiration for this style of video from the Moranian Review and Survivor Gumball, so be sure to go check them out. So yep, let's get into ranking the Survivor 46 cast on how I think they're going to win, starting with the first person voted out. Obviously they don't have a chance to win anymore, but you know, we're going to talk about it anyway. Okay, and for our first boot of the season, of course, we had the infamous Mr. Several himself, Jelinski. Now, I have to be honest, coming into Survivor 46, the hype was there, and the first episode for me, it really delivered. Jelinski's downfall episode was truly one of the greatest we've ever had in Survivor. I mean, that man was full of confidence. He was calling himself a legend. He was dropping quotes left, right and centre, but then he got ousted by his own alliance. I mean, you gotta have some sort of skill to be able to be voted out by an alliance that you'd created whilst being one of the strongest people on your tribe as well. But I mean, he had a poor showing in the journey where he folded his cards, and I think he played that really poorly when he went back to camp and he was like, yeah, I just gave them extra votes. Like, he shouldn't have done that. He should have probably lied. But you know, Jelinski, he was a great character and I enjoyed watching him for as long as he was on the season. I know he wants to come back. I'm not sure that will ever happen, but you know, I'm rooting for you, Jelinski. And then in 17th, of course, we had Jessica, who was the second person voted out of the game. Now, I just felt so horrible for Jessica whilst watching this season. I mean, the poor girl went through a lot. You could tell she wasn't in it at all, and you know, I respect the fact that she was very honest in her exit press, saying how she was just happy to go home. I do think she gave us some good moments, like when she was losing her stuff around camp, and I thought that was a very funny bit. Ultimately, I don't think we really got to see the whole of what we could have seen from Jess, but she drew the short straw. She was on the Yanu tribe. They were a disaster. They voted out Jelinski first. She probably should have been the first one voted out, but she did well to avoid that. However, she just ran out of steam completely. You could tell she was mentally drained, and I just felt bad for her, especially when they did her with the fake idol. I mean, you gotta love the craziness of the game. But that was just, I mean, that was so harsh. But you know what? I think she knew it was fake anyway, so it wasn't too bad. And now in 16th place we had Randon, of course, the medical evacuation. You always hate to see it, man. I mean, it looked scary. I mean, not being able to move your hand must just be like a very frightening thing, especially when you're on Survivor. I mean, you know that if you were out there, you'd want to stay, but sometimes you just have to go. Obviously, we had the whole thing where Tribal was cancelled, Banu was saved. It was very mixed reactions online about whether they wanted Banu to be saved or not. I mean, we'll talk about Banu very soon, of course, but I didn't mind seeing it here. Random was one of my draft picks, though, which was an unfortunate ending to how I ended up losing him. And I would have liked to see, obviously, how he could have done. Of course, he had the Beware advantage. He was looking in a decent spot. I did think pre-game he would struggle socially, but he seemed to be fitting in quite well. We saw the connection he had with Venus, which seemed to be like a good connection they had going. Obviously, Venus, we'll talk about soon as well, but she hasn't had much luck, especially with connections, and just losing your #1 ally, especially in this way. It's just a horrible way to see someone leave the game. But of course, you know, we never got to see the whole thing from Randon. I don't think he'll get the Bruce treatment and come back, but you never know. And now in 15th we had Banu. Poor Banu, man. This guy is too sweet and innocent for Survivor, clearly. I think he's the kind of guy who, you put him on Survivor with pretty much any cast, I think he struggles. To be honest, I think maybe if you put him on Sega, you know, I could see him fitting in well with the Vibe tribe, but he was just so paranoid. He couldn't have had a harder journey in the game, and it was very honestly quite tough to watch at times. He was always very desperate to stay in the game, which is understandable, you know. As a Survivor superfan, you're desperate to play the game. You don't want to be the third person voted out. In my opinion, he did well to get as far as he did, but I'm not sure on any other tribe would they have let him get to the third person getting voted out. I mean, wow. The amount of confessionals he had was almost a record for pre-merge, I believe, which is insane. He even had more than some previous winners like Parvati, like Natalie White, which is insane to me. But obviously with the 2-hour 90 and the 90-minute episodes, they are going to get more screen time, and he was a very big character, which I think we probably would have enjoyed more if they hadn't gone to 3 tribal councils in a row. I do think ultimately Banu did bring something to the season. Saw a lot of people saying, why was he cast? You know, he was just a waste of a spot, but I don't see it like that. I think he brought a lot to the season, and whilst obviously it didn't pan out the way that they probably would have hoped, and the online reaction has been quite bad towards Banu, I thought he was a nice guy, and I enjoyed watching him play for the most part anyway. I didn't like, though, that they didn't have a vote here. I mean, I just don't like setting precedents like that. Like, let's just keep the votes. Like, come on, this is Survivor. Let them vote. It takes 5 minutes. I know we're taking budget cuts, but surely we have enough pieces of paper for the votes. I mean, come on. And now we have the final pre-merger, which was Jem, who was actually my pre-season winner pick. Now, I could lie to you because this is not on the record anywhere, but she was my first draft pick and my winner pick, which was unfortunate because clearly I didn't do enough research into that. Honestly, this episode was my favourite of the season so far. Just the fact that Yanu won an immunity challenge, like, it really was a beautiful, beautiful sight. And I thought it was great that we got to see some new dynamics. I thought the whole of the pre-merge, you know, I thought Maria was in control of the duo with Charlie and they were going to go with the girls. But, you know, they ended up going with the guys and saving Ben, which I have to say I wasn't too disappointed in. I thought her whole thing with the hiding the Beware advantage, I thought it was silly. It made no sense game-wise. It just added more suspicion onto her. And the whole reason she wanted to do it was to put a target on Tim's back, but that just makes them more nervous to vote for Tim, which is the person you want to get out. The right strategy with the Beware advantage we've seen in the new era is tell your closest allies so they can work around it, and I think if she tells someone about her Beware advantage, I think she probably stays in the game. However, she, you know, led them on a wild goose chase, which I think just added more suspicion, which just isn't good for her game. And ultimately led to her getting voted out, which I think I have to say she brought it on herself. Now, the pre-merge as a whole, I thought it was a pretty average pre-merge. I thought the premiere was great. I thought episodes 2, 3, 4, they were a rough patch of episodes. But I thought it really picked up here with this Jem vote, and, you know, Survivor is still Survivor at the end of the day. And even though we had a rough few episodes, coming into the merge, we were still excited, of course. And then the merge episode, I mean, wow. I thought this episode was interesting. I'm still not a fan of Mergatory. No matter how many times we watch it, I still just can't get behind it. I don't like the fact that we make half of them immune. I mean, let's just keep them as tribes, do another round, do a tribe swap, do something, you know. We don't need to merge at 13, like, you know. I thought Mariah got very unlucky here with, obviously, the draw of the challenge was like the most lopsided thing we've ever seen. And the fact that Sega was like trying to play like that they're all like in love and, you know, best friends. I thought it was a crazy strategy because it's obviously going to make the other tribes want to vote one of your numbers out. Which she was the easiest number to take out because they named her as the person on the bottom. So ultimately, I don't think she did much wrong. I think she really got screwed by the way that her tribe played. I think she probably should have told people that she was on the bottom. I mean, obviously we saw there was a bit of things about the fact that her favourite player was Aubrey, but I mean, I love Aubrey, but, you know, that shouldn't be the reason you get voted out. They're just looking for anything at that point. But yeah, ultimately, it was sad to see Mariah go. I did like her as a character. Obviously, it was funny that she couldn't jump very high, but yeah. And now we're going to move on to the active players in the game. So we're at the merge point of the game now. This is the day after I recorded the pre-merge boots and merge boot. So I may sound a bit different. Hopefully I don't. But yes, we'll move on and talk about the players who are left in the game. In 12th, we have Liz and all of her millions of cash she has in her pocket. I feel like all we know about Liz is that she's rich and that she's allergic to all the food on the island, which is kind of sad to see when she can't, like, take part in a reward, but I'm sure she's okay. Gameplay wise, I think she's very passive and seems to be in an okay position though, but I just don't see her winning the game, which is why I've put her in 12 here. However, Liz, if you want to slide me some of that cash, you know, I'm willing to take bribes. Now in 11th, we have Soda. And honestly, it's pretty much the same as Liz, you know. I feel like she's, again, in an okay spot. All we've really seen from her game-wise, though, is her arguing with Venus and Tevin not really trusting her. I think she could make a long run in the game. However, I just don't see her having an edit good enough of a winner so far. I think she's been okay. Not really got much from her. I thought maybe she'd be a bigger character coming into this season. However, it hasn't really lived up to that. And the only real things she's been shown of is when it's in relation to Venus, who I believe is probably the person who will outlast in the two of those people. Okay, now we get to talk about Venus, who's been one of the most polarizing characters of the season, most certainly. You either like her or you don't like her, I believe, and I'm sort of in the middle, though, even though I've just said that. I think I can see where she's coming from. I would be very frustrated as well, being on that tribe and, you know, not feeling like I'm getting listened to, no one wants to talk to me. And even when she made it to the merge, you know, she was trying to make things happen. She tried, but I think she's trying too much. I think people don't trust her. I mean, she is constantly getting undermined by the edit, and I know she's had a lot of screen time, but I'm almost certain on her having very, very, very little winner chance here. I could be proven wrong, and, you know, I'm sure that would make for a great, entertaining season. However, I'm not feeling Venus. I don't think she is the winner of this season. However, I think she could go far. Maybe we'll see her in the final three. Maybe she'll be like the Jake of last season, per se, where just nothing ever goes her way. I could definitely see that being her story in the rest of the game. Okay, now Tim coming in. Just made the top 10, so congratulations, Tim. Number 9. I like Tim, I'll be honest. I do like Tim. I do think he seems to be a decent player, but I just don't think in the new era of Survivor he can play the kind of game that he's playing and win. I think he's very passive. I mean, we saw him get involved in this huge alliance and he didn't even tell the person who he said that he was going to bring into the alliance, which immediately creates distrust with people. However, I do like him. I do think he has potential upside. However, we have seen him be quite invisible during the edit at times. I think he did well to make it out of his original tribe, of course. And we could again see him make a deep run. However, I do think Sega is on the back foot now. So I'm not too sure, but I've put him above Liz, Soda and Venus because I do believe he has higher percentage chance of winning than them. But I think he is the last person in my list of people who I'm like ruling out of being the winner. I genuinely think from 8 to 1, any of them could be the winner. And the first person in that list is Maria for me, another member of the Sega tribe who we definitely saw have a very strong premiere episode. A lot of people had her in their top 3, top 4. I never really had her that high on my list. She was never really giving me winner vibes. However, we did see that scene where her and Charlie were compared to Malcolm and Denise, and I do think that is a scene that we have to take into account, because last season, season 45, we had a very similar scene with Drew and Austin saying that they were going to be the new JT and Steven. Now, neither of those did go on to win the game, but we saw them both make very deep runs. So that is what I am sort of predicting will happen again. They're going to make a deep run as a duo, I believe, and I don't know if she can be the winner though, which is why I've got her in 8th. I think Charlie has been given a lot more of the content, which you would think if the winner is in that pair, you'd give more of the content to the winner. So that is basically my thought process behind putting her here on this list. But again, I was surprised to see her go with the guys at the first tribal council as well. I think Charlie did very well to get her to go with the guys, as I'm not sure if that was in her best interest. You know, I thought we saw her as the more dominant strategic player out of that pair, and she also, in my opinion, she completely wasted her extra vote. I know she said she wanted to get rid of it, but I think an extra vote can be so valuable. Like, why not? We saw the tribe was so united anyway. Why not just lie and say that you've used it, but you still got it in your back pocket? I mean, I think that there's a lot better things she could have done with that. And now in 7th, we have one of my favourite characters of the season, actually, in Q. I really, really like Q. I think he's just been a lot of fun to watch, especially with all the chaos on Yanu. He definitely brought us a lot of great TV moments, but we've seen him play the game hard. I mean, in the Merge episode, it was a lot focused around him. You know, we had a confessional where Mariah said, you know, out of everyone that spoke to her, Q was the one that was working the hardest to get the cracks, which shows he is actively trying to play the game and improve his position, which you wouldn't expect maybe from someone like Q. And like, I've actually been very impressed with how he's played the game. However, I still think I just don't see him being able to make it to the end of the game, which is why I don't think he's going to win. I think if he made it to the final 3, I could definitely see him winning, but I don't see him getting there at this current moment in time. We've already seen people are seeing him as a threat, and I don't think it will be too long before we see his torch get snuffed, unfortunately. In 6th, we've got Ben. I think Ben's probably the hardest player to analyse this season, because we don't really see him playing the game a lot. You know, obviously he is playing the game, and I think he really did a great job keeping Sega together, and I think that's probably a lot of the reason why he stayed in the game. You know, we saw his relationship with Charlie build, and he's a lot of fun to watch on our screens for sure. I don't know how to rank him, I truly don't, which is why I've put him, you know, somewhere in the middle, because I think he could win, but will he win? I mean, I just don't know at all. So that is the reason why I've put him in 6th. I'm not sure really what he's got going. I still think Sega, again, I'm not feeling too confident about. Well, one of the players I am feeling confident about. We'll talk about them later. But I'm not too sure what options he has moving forwards. However, you know, we saw him pull off the GM vote in the pre-merge, which was very good for his game. And I think if he makes it into a final 3, I mean, this guy is so likable. I think he could definitely pull it off. But will he make it there? Not too sure. And in 5th, we have Kenzie. Now, Kenzie is probably the player that I'm regretting the most putting where they are. I definitely think Kenzie is the first person who I truly believe could be the winner of this season. Her edit has been very consistent. It's been very good. She's been shown to be a very good player. But again, you know, I just think, can we see another player from one of these disaster tribes win the season? I'm not too sure. I have put her in 5th here. I think she's been a great person to watch. We've obviously seen her sometimes be in trouble, but she's managed to avoid it, even though I think, obviously, they keep trying to show Q wanting her out. And I think maybe she is going to be the one to end Q's game, and maybe that is how that story will end. So I could definitely see her end up winning this season. However, I have put her in 5th just because I'm not too confident on how she's going to do. I think she'll be good in the individual immunity challenges. If there's any endurance challenges or things like that, I think she could definitely do a very good job. which obviously gives her more protection. But I think if she skates through a few votes, we could definitely see her make a run to the end. And obviously we see how close she is with Tiff, who has an idol. So I am actually pretty high on her chances at the moment. And in fourth, we have Tevin. Now, Tevin's edit has been a confusing one because obviously we saw him open the whole show with a great analogy and a great speech on Survivor. However, he was on Nami, which was, you know, the tribe that just won and won and won, and we were still seeing him completely run the dynamics of his tribe, which shows he is a very big social force. And I think the fact that he has Hunter on his side as a potential shield could be a very good thing for him. I think we've always seen him in a positive light pretty much, and I do believe that he will go far in the game. I think the only thing that makes me nervous is that Venus Revenge Arc could end up taking him out here. But no, I like Tevin. I like him. I hope he does well. I think there's not much to analyze because we really haven't seen Nami play the game at all. So I can't add too much onto this. It's kind of just put him in the top 4, top 5 because he has a lot of upside and see what happens. And now Tiffany, our first member of the top 3 and the highest member of Yanu. Obviously, she has the idol. She's been running the Yanu tribe. She was always in the middle, pivotal in all of the votes, which was impressive to see. And I do think she's going to make a very, very deep run on this season. Is she going to be the winner? I hope so. She's in my draft team. That would be great. But I'm not too sure. I'm not too sure she's the winner. But in my opinion, she's in a good enough spot. She's had a very consistent edit. She's got an idol. All things are looking very positive for her. Which means, you know, I think the top 3 is a very warranted position for her to be in. I think she's still got Q, she's still got Kenzie. She seems to have a good relationship with Tevin and Hunter now. And I don't believe people will see her as this huge threat. Especially from the Yanu 3, I believe Q and Kenzie will be looked at more than her. Which means I think she will be able to make a very deep run on this season. And that's why she's in the top 3 for me. And number 2 is Hunter. Now, do I think Hunter is going to win the season? I would say right now I'm like maybe a 15% chance of winning the season, but I just think the fact that he is so good at these immunity challenges and he's got an idol. I mean, if this was old Survivor, I would be putting him first all day of the week. However, in New Era Survivor, I do think he's definitely going to run into some obstacles at some point, and he will face a lot of challenges getting himself to the final 3. But I do think if he makes it to that final 3, I do see him probably winning the season. I mean, he is a very likable guy. Obviously, he's very introverted. He kind of reminds me of me, but obviously a lot bigger and a lot stronger in some ways. And he seems to be like the best at these challenges we've ever seen. I mean, probably not ever seen. You know, we've got Ozzy, you know, Joe. You know, I'm not sure he'll live up to those heights. However, we could see it. We definitely could see it. So I'm interested to see how he does. He just has tremendous upside, a good edit, seems to be a nice guy. So yeah, I do think the top 2 is a warranted place yet again. And yeah, we'll now reveal the number 1. Ooh. And number 1 is Charlie. Congratulations, Charlie. You've done it. You're number 1 on the Survivor Josh Power Rankings. Congratulations, man. I'm very proud of you. Now, what do I think about Charlie's game? I think he is in a good pair with Mariah. I think he is running that pair at the minute. I mean, Maria, by the way. I said the wrong name. Whoops. I think he is running that pair at the moment, from the edit anyway. That's what we seem to be seeing, which is impressive to see. And I do think he's been having a very good edit. Do I think he's going to win the season? Again, I really think these rankings are so hard to do this season. You know, I don't have a clear standout. I genuinely think from 1 to 8, the winner is somewhere in 1 to 8. I really do think so. But yeah, I thought it was very impressive in the pre-merge. We saw him get his way at the gem vote. We saw him pull Maria into the direction that he wanted to go, and then at the merge, you know, his name came up and it was swatted away so quickly, which showed he did integrate himself in very well. Even though he was probably the biggest target out of his group, he managed to avoid that by the way that he'd integrated himself into the group. So he's got a very, very good social game, one of the best social games of the season for sure. And I do think I could see him being the winner of Survivor 46. So, there we go. That was my rankings for Survivor 46. Everyone, I hope you enjoy the merge vote. I hope you enjoy the merge episode tonight. And if anyone's watched this far, I really, really appreciate you. I'm not sure anyone has. But, yeah, thank you very much, Survivor fans, for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you probably at the end of the season where I'll do a ranking of all the players, maybe. Alright, thank you. Bye.